Without further ado, we go to Bob Holt from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette and WholeHogSports.com. Bob, before we get into the bowl game, which is only 2 days away, I feel like biggest topic around the water cooler today among text chains out there, message boards, it was about the Arkansas loss last night, 81-68 in Starkville, Mississippi, to the Bulldogs. Other than the JD Notae effect last night, how big of a factor do you think it played not having JD in the lineup?
Well, I'm sure it affected Arkansas. I mean, he's their leading scorer. He's leading the league in steals. He's a pretty good rebounder for his size. He's been their top scorer all season in a lot of games. So I don't have any doubt it affected them. Whether or not they would have won with him, that's a different matter. And really, when Arkansas played Hoster didn't have their number one scorer. When they played Penn didn't have their number one scorer. And for different reasons, but those guys were ill. I don't think it was COVID, and I'm not 100% sure this was COVID-related, although it certainly seems to have all the earmarkings of that. Because Eric said they knew coming back from Christmas break he wouldn't be able to play, and then they gave it another day, so that lends itself to testing, I would think. But, I think it absolutely would have made a difference. I mean, you can argue who the best player is, if it's JD or Devo or whoever you think it is, but it definitely affects the team when they're not their leading scorer. There's no doubt about that. But whether or not they would have won if he played, that's up for debate.
And before we get back into the game, I think it's also some people probably want me to ask you if you've heard anything, because the rumor mill, it's already picking up. It's already starting to go with the indefinite suspension of Kamani Johnson. What do you know about the situation? And if Arkansas is not, and Eric Musselman's not releasing anything, do you think they should, to kind of get ahead of the rumor mill? Because we've seen multiple examples of once the rumors start, and if one or two of them stick, that's all people remember.
Well, I've heard some things, but I haven't got anything confirmed, so I wouldn't say anything on the air. So wouldn't write anything for the paper. But Eric clearly did not want to discuss that, because I asked him, you mentioned you had a pretty good advance notice that JD wasn't going to play. When did you decide, or this is paraphrasing here, so when did you know Kamani wouldn't play? And he just said, well, we put out a statement, and all the statement said was that he was suspended indefinitely. But a lot of times, really, these days with discipline, it's very rare if a coach says what a player did to get suspended. And so there are things, sometimes things leak out, sometimes they don't, sometimes they get confirmed, sometimes they don't. But at this point, he hasn't been dismissed from the team. So he's suspended indefinitely. Whether or not he'll ever play for the Razorbacks again, that's a different matter. But I've heard some things too. But schools just this day and age. I wish all the schools would be transparent about why guys got suspended or why this happened or why that happened. But that just doesn't happen very often these days.
Yeah, it'd definitely make our jobs a whole lot easier if we knew the facts and knew exactly everything that was going on, and it was just. It was a two-way street. They tell us, we tell the public, and then that's it. We put it to bed with the rumor mill. Now, I've only, been here for a little over 6 months. Does Eric, to your knowledge, is Eric Musselman, does he have any experience with suspending players, either here at Arkansas or, at Nevada, at his previous stop indefinitely? Or what's his track record as far as bringing guys back if he has one?
Well, of course, Kamani we know he got arrested last summer. Sometimes there's a paper trail with things, and they may not say a guy got suspended because he got arrested, but a guy gets arrested, gets suspended, you kind of put two and two together. Yeah. But and Kamani, Eric said they handled that internally with discipline, and he missed. I think he missed the exhibition games with that. They said that was for a wrist injury. And I'm trying to think of other cases where guys have been suspended here. I can't think of, off the top of my head, I can't remember anybody missing a game because of suspension. I might be wrong. Just trying to rack my brain here a little bit. As far as Nevada goes, I'm really not sure what his 4 seasons there that he was there. I don't know if he suspended anybody or not, but sometimes the school will have the rules. Basically, if this guy, is accused of this, or if this guy gets arrested for this or whatever, then he's going to have to sit. Or sometimes it's up to the coach, or maybe the coach consults with the athletic director or these kinds of things. But and it also depends on if stuff happens in season or if stuff happens out of season. I think if a guy gets arrested in June or whatever, play for 4 or 5 months, then I don't think it's unreasonable to say, well, we punished the guy and done some stuff and made sure he's doing this or that. Where he doesn't necessarily have to miss a game 4 months later, but sometimes they do. I think it's a lot of times it's a case-by-case basis.
Mm-hmm. We're talking with Bob Holt from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette and WholeHogSports.com. Bob, with the game last night, I think everybody was, disappointed, but you can kind of understand with JD Notae out, anything from Johnson's suspension lingering around the team, and due to the fact that it's only one game into the season. And I say that to kind of go the opposite of being positive, because there is always two sides to every coin. For every fan that's positive, I feel like there's always 2 or 3 out there that are very, very negative. And do you think that to this point in the season, with what we've seen from this team, with this latest loss, losing 3 out of the last 4, do you think their ceiling has dropped any from what we thought it was going to be to begin the year?
Well, I think expectations definitely have been lowered. Maybe not among the team, but certainly, among media and fans. I mean, they were a top 20 team going into the season. They got as high as 10th, mainly because they were winning. They had, I think Kansas State's a solid team. I think Cincinnati's a solid team. Those were 2 good wins, not, eye-popping wins. But there's an ebb and flow to the season. I mean, you see Alabama goes out to Seattle and beats Gonzaga. That's a great win. That's probably the SEC's best win of the year. And they beat a really good Houston team at home, and kind of so first they lose at home to Davidson, who's a pretty solid program, and they lose to Iona, of course, where Rick Pitino's the coach. So, sometimes teams have, kind of head-scratching losses. I don't think there's any disgrace in losing to Oklahoma like Arkansas did. I mean, losing to Oklahoma, but the way they lost by 22, that's obviously not good. On neutral floor, where they had, I would say they had more fans than OU did. Eric acknowledged that he thought it was, Arkansas had a really good crowd there. And but yeah, I mean, Arkansas has gone from being a team that was ranked 10th in the nation to not being ranked. Their net going into last night, of course, that can change a lot, especially when you start playing conference games. With their net, ranking, which is the NCAA, I think, with evaluation tool. That's what net stands for, and that's kind of replaced RPI in terms of how they see teams in terms of their record, strength of schedule, good wins, all that kind of stuff. And Arkansas was 90th in that. But, they're going to play a lot of good SEC teams between now and March, or, early March, go to the SEC tournament, and when the selection committee comes out. So I don't have any doubt that net will go up. Just by playing SEC teams, it's got to go up, even if they're not winning all those games. So, yeah, I think the expectations people have for this team have been lowered significantly. Going into the season, people are probably wondering how high are they going to be seeded in the NCAA tournament? Now it's like, well, they're going to make the NCAA tournament. They've got a lot of work to do, but they've also got a lot of games in which to do that work. So, to me, it's way too early to bail on the season. I mean, you start thinking about last year when they started 2-4 in SEC playing, got hammered at Alabama and LSU, and you're wondering, like, wow, what's going to happen? They went on a big run. I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but I'm just saying it's very, this is one conference game out of, hopefully they'll get to play the next 17. Games are getting, postponed and canceled, so you don't know if that'll happen. But they've certainly got a lot of conference games left to play. I think that's safe to say. And, Eric Musselman's got a track record. This is 7th season. The previous 6, they've always won at least 20 games. Out of those 6 years, the 5 that there was an NCAA tournament, he took teams to it 4 times, went to a Sweet 16 with Nevada, went to an Elite 8 with Arkansas. So he's got a track record. That doesn't mean this year is going to turn out like everybody wants, but I think you have to give it time to play out because, he has been a very successful coach.
Mm-hmm. And you bring up the fact that there's been cancellations, due to COVID-19 throughout college basketball and through this bowl season. And before I get your thoughts on the bowl game itself, especially with the opt-outs of Penn State and what that's going to do to their defense, 2 days away from the Outback Bowl, no reports out there that I've personally seen about possibility of, there's, rampant COVID in Tampa between either team. 2 days out, any bit of concern that you have around whether the Outback Bowl is going to be played at 11 o'clock, first thing, day one of 2022?
Well, I'd say the odds are pretty good it's going to be played, although really in this day and age, it's hard to say anything for sure. I mean, the Holiday Bowl got canceled, I think 4 hours,
yeah,
4 or 5 hours off, and there'd been no indication that UCLA, at least not that I was aware of, that UCLA was in, was having number issues. And apparently, they said, well, they had enough guys until the last day, and then they tested, and they didn't have nearly enough defensive linemen. And certainly, Dave Doran, the NC State coach, was very upset. And so it sounds like there had been nothing from UCLA in terms of communication to say, hey, right now we got enough guys, but it's kind of tricky, so, we'll keep our fingers crossed. I know during the SEC season, I think Sam Pittman called Eli Drinkwitz. Arkansas was getting ready to play. I can't remember the exact circumstances, but Arkansas wasn't going to be able to play somebody, and so Missouri was preparing. The game had been canceled, so they were preparing for somebody else, and Sam called Drinkwitz as a courtesy to tell him, hey, we're probably not going to be able to play, so you can probably start getting ready for whoever it was. Mm-hmm. And it seems like Sam Pittman and James Franklin, Penn State coach, used to coach in the SEC at Vanderbilt, have a pretty good relationship, a lot of mutual respect there. So I got to believe if one side or the other was having issues, that they would tell them that, and kind of give them a heads up. And also, I don't know if you guys were mentioning Busch Gardens and all that. If you're having a COVID issue within your team, I don't think you send a bunch of guys to Busch Gardens.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and the guys are down for good bowl experience. So I would be, at this point, I mean, you got to be concerned. You never say never, all that, but I just see no indications that either team won't be able to field enough guys, and so I think the game's going to be played. But obviously, I think the Memphis Tennessee basketball game, Tennessee was at the freaking arena.
Yeah, it was. For that game. I was there. I was in Nashville, Bob. It was an hour before.
He made the trip.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm well aware.
So I mean, if that can happen, you kind of wonder. And I know Rick Barnes was very upset about that, and rightly so. And you just kind of feel like some teams, handle COVID better than others. Nick Saban talked about Alabama, how the players basically voted not to leave the hotel. And of course, they're playing for a national championship, but really for Arkansas, I don't. Penn State is a big game for Arkansas. Their guys called it their Super Bowl or their national title game. And this is a really big deal to the Razorbacks, and it's a big deal to Penn State too, because they've had a lot of guys opt out, and they could, pull back. But also, I don't think it doesn't do your program a lot of good in the future if you get a reputation for a team that isn't going to play or is going to look for reasons not to play. Because COVID may be with us. I hate to say it, but it may be with us to stay for the long haul in some form or another. So people have to learn to deal with it. And if you get the reputation as a program that's opting out, then I don't know if Boulder is anxious to invite you in the future. I mean, that's just kind of a thought off the top of my head. But I'd be hesitant. I might be hesitant to schedule Memphis in basketball. I might be hesitant to invite UCLA to a bowl game. If you just feel like, well, they're not really doing everything they should to be able to play. Some things are out of your control, but other things you say, wow, they're just not being very, very responsible here. I know there are pictures of UCLA at an outing, maybe at SeaWorld or something, because that game's in San Diego. And like I said, I'm not saying these guys shouldn't have fun or you should lock them in their hotel rooms or whatever, but also if you really think there's an issue, is that really smart to go on a big outing like that? I mean, maybe you say, hey, we're just trying to be careful. Guys, I'm sorry, but, we're here to play the game, and so we're going to be more careful. I mean, maybe that outing had nothing to do with their testing positive, but you kind of wonder if they really took many precautions as they should have.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there, Bob. I appreciate you joining me, and we'll recap it next week. Happy New Year to you and yours, and enjoy the game.
Okay, same to you guys. Bye.
BetOnline has you covered for all the holiday season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all sports action. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with the promo code BELIEVE to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV to receive your bonus. And it's not just football. BetOnline has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all these amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports.